Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Seriously Disturbed. I'm Lauren,
And I'm Savannah.
and this week I have a crazy case for you guys. So, I just heard about it on my favorite podcast, and that's why we drink. And it is the story of Lisa McVey. Have you heard about it?
Never heard of it. No.
Okay, so this
Ah.
story is bonkers. Um, My main source that I used was a episode of Surviving Evil. It was season 1, episode 2, and it's called Nobody's Victim. And there's also a Lifetime movie that was made on this case. I didn't really use this as a source, but I wanted to include it in here so you guys can go watch it. It's called Believe Me, and it's on Hulu. So it's like a reenactment of everything and Lisa McVey's actually like featured at the end, so I think that it like has her stamp of approval on it. So
I love that. Okay. So she's
yes,
still alive? Like it's like
it
pretty recent?
yes, it's a survivor's story.
Oh my God. I'm either going to love it or it's going to bother me. I can't tell by these titles of sources.
I it's rough. Like the beginning is really rough. But I think you're gonna love it. I think everyone's gonna like it. It's a good story.
Okay. Okay. Here we
Okay.
go.
So, Lisa McVey was born in March of 1967 in Tampa, Florida. Growing up, she had a really tough childhood. Her and her sister suffered child abuse from her mother and her various mother's boyfriends, like throughout the time.
Yeah.
And her mom suffered from drug addiction and often called Lisa, quote, unlovable. So she was just not having a good childhood. And because of her mother's drug addiction, her and her sister would often like bounce around from different foster homes whenever her mom was just not mothering.
Yeah. Acting up. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And then at age 14, she went to live with her grandmother to like help her out. So her sister stayed with her mom. She went to her grandmother's house.
Okay.
But while living with her grandmother, she was sexually abused by her grandmother's boyfriend,
Oh my
Morris.
God.
So like
Ah.
she just
Okay.
cannot escape.
Yeah.
And her grandmother actually knew about this abuse and often watched and was telling Lisa that she should be grateful she was living in a house with her own room. So like her grandma did not give a
What?
fuck. Yeah.
Oh, so she just was never protected.
Never protected. And at
Oh
one
my God.
point, Lisa's sister, Lori, didn't know that this was happening to her. And she came over to stay at their grandmother's house with Lisa one night. And when she was going to bed, like they were sleeping in the same bed, she found a gun underneath the pillow. And when she asked Lisa why she had a gun, Lisa told her it was because if Morris tried to abuse her in any way, that he would kill him, and she would not let him hurt her like he's been hurting her.
Oh
So that was
my
kind of like the first
God.
time, yeah, that the sister
She
even found out about
realized.
it.
So
Yeah.
you may have already said this, but is the sister younger or older? Or
I
do you
think
know?
she's younger, but that's a good question.
That's the energy I'm getting if she said, I'm not letting this man touch you. Like it's giving big sister energy.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know where, like, I read a couple different articles too, like, just briefly. I didn't really get anything from them, but I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
that anywhere. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it doesn't matter either way. Sisterly love. She's not letting that man. Oh, that's so sad.
I know it is really sad. And I just,
And that's like her
ugh,
view of
I
men.
hate
Like
that story.
yeah, like every man in her life's been like this. This is, oh,
Yeah. And like in the documentary, Lisa's like featured in the documentary. She's the one telling her story. And she said, quote, the two people I trusted in my life, my mother and my grandmother, failed me tremendously emotionally. They never nurtured me. No one has ever acknowledged responsibility for what they allowed to happen to me. So she just
crazy.
growing up just never, I
No
mean,
one's
she was
taking care of her.
abused. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awful. And just because
Morris,
you're not doing the abuse, oh, sorry.
no, you go.
Well, just because you're not doing the abusing doesn't mean you're not an abuser. Like watching
Exactly.
it happen almost feels worse. Ugh,
Yeah.
makes me
Like you
sick.
should be protecting me and you're just letting this man do what he
Yeah.
wants. So Morris, he pulled Lisa out of school and forced her to bring in money for the house as he didn't want to work himself. So at 14 years old, he made her stop going to school.
Ugh. I'm
And she
pissed.
started, I know, it's just it's so aggravating. She started working at a local donut shop, and she loved it because it was a place to get away from her awful home, and she called it, quote, her safe house.
You
So
know
she
what?
would pick
That's
up
actually a
like,
good thing.
yes, yeah. And when she was 17, Morris told her that he wanted to have a baby with her. Yeah, really rough. And it was at this point that Lisa decided that she had had enough and she didn't want to live this life any longer. In the documentary, Lisa said, quote, I didn't want to live for what? I'm damaged goods. Who's going to love me? Which is
Oh,
just so freaking sad. And so she wrote a suicide note before working a double shift at the donut shop. So she like wrote this note and then she was going to go work at the donut shop. And once she got home that night, she was going to
yeah.
try to end her life.
Oh my god, this makes me sick to my stomach. Like, you're
Yeah.
not the problem. These nasty ass wretched people are the problem.
And it's just so sad that like that's like the only way that she can see as a way to get
Getting
out.
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just awful. So after her shift, she got on her bike to go home and she remembered feeling happy and free because she knew that when she got home, this life would be over and she would be free from all the abuse.
Oh my god, that's so sad.
I can't imagine feeling that way. So at around 2 a.m., while she's on her way home, taking her normal path, she passed down a street that was really badly lit, and she noticed that there was a car sitting in the darkness in a church parking lot. And in the car was serial killer Bobby Joe Long.
What? What?
I tell you, this story's crazy.
Okay.
So as she was pedaling past the car, she got snatched from behind. She started screaming as loudly as she possibly could, but Bobby pressed a gun to her head and said, "Shut up or I'll kill you." He dragged her into his car and put the gun to her head again, and she also noticed that he had like this huge hunting knife, and he told her to strip. And while she was stripping her clothes off, he said that she better show him a good time for the rest of the night, and if he liked it, he would let her go.
Oh
Just
my
disgusting.
god. That's terrifying. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sick. This girl cannot catch a break.
No, she can't. And so he bound her wrist and ankles and he blindfolded her, but literally Lisa is so freaking smart. Like I would never think of this, but while he was putting the blindfold on her, she tightened her jaw so that when the blindfold, like when he was done tying it
It
and
would
she
be
unloosened her
looser?
jaw, it was a little loose.
She's
Isn't
brilliant.
that so
I
smart?
literally would never have thinking that. I'd be like saying my goodbyes, like, am I good with everybody?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's
my
crazy.
God.
So like she could see a little bit under the bottom of the blindfold.
What
Just
a gal. She's
So smart. And I think what's like really crazy about this story to me, like what gets me is she was thinking to herself, like at the beginning, like, quote, God, just don't let him kill me. And she decided then and there that she didn't want to die and that she was going to do everything she could to stay alive.
Oh my God.
So-
This is like the worst way to figure that out. But
Yeah.
if she's alive today, I'm happy that, everything happened the way it did, I guess. But
Yeah, she's alive and she's thriving. And I mean, I'll get into it like towards the
Yeah.
end, but just insane. So again, Lisa is literally so smart. So while she's in the car, she's trying to take notice of everything. She's seeing like, what can I see?
Smart
What can I
girl.
hear? What can I touch? What can I smell? Like all the senses. And she remembers the car being loud, like it needed an oil change, which like I wouldn't even know what that sounds like, but
yeah, the car's
Smart.
making sounds that, questionable
Yeah.
sounds. But yeah. I know
and
that.
like a light from a street light hit the dashboard just right, so she saw the word Magnum written on the dashboard of the car, and she literally remembers every like left and right turn that they took. Like she counted it. She's like, okay, from the church I turned right, then left. Yeah.
How did she remember that? Like, I would not be thinking that clearly. Oh my God.
Same. She just, I mean, in the documentary, it's like when this situation happens to you, you either fight or you flight. And she fought.
She
Like,
fought. Yeah.
she was doing everything she could. So once the car was parked, Bobby tells her to get dressed again and removed the bindings from her wrists and ankles, but kept the blindfold on. And he starts leading her up the stairs, and she even counted like the number of stairs that she took. So she remembers she walked up 22 steps to
How
get
can she
into
remember all this?
the
Like, I'm
house.
so proud of her. Like, oh my
She's a
God.
bad ass. Like, ugh.
Okay.
And once she got into the apartment, she could tell that the apartment was either new or recently redone because she could smell fresh paint,
I'd
which
be
just like so many,
terrified.
yeah. And once inside, he orders her to take a shower. So he takes the blindfold off of her, but tells her to like keep her eyes closed. And he gets in the shower with her and starts bathing her. Like he's
What?
playing this like romantic scenario in his head or something.
But don't open your eyes.
Yeah.
Like, what? Weird.
Just weird.
This
Like
is
she was
just
saying, like he
weird.
was like being caring, and then all of a sudden he like switched a flip and started acting enraged and raped her multiple times. And she was like saying in the documentary that it was so painful and was just excruciating. But every time she would tell him that it hurt, he would yell at her saying, "Shut up, bitch." So like one minute he was so like not really sweet, but like
Yeah,
acting
yeah.
and everything, like bathing her, and then boom, just flipped a switch and was being so evil.
Violent. Yeah. Ugh.
Yes. The whole time that this was happening to her, she was thinking of her sister and anything that she could to get out of the situation. And she decided that the best path forward for her was to try and gain his trust.
I
So
feel like that's the
he,
technique I would take too. Like, we're
yes,
not strong gals physically. Like, how else can you do it?
yes,
uh,
exactly. So after he like got done raping her multiple times, he
mhm.
started talking to her and asked her like what her name was and everything, and she actually gave him a fake name and told her that her name was Carol and that she was 20 years old. And all she was really doing was just trying to lie to him in a way that would make him not upset. And she even told him that she has a dad back at home, like which is this is all fake, that
Yeah.
she has a dad back at home and he's really sick and needs his medication, and she's the only one to give him his medication, that he'll die without her and everything. So she was trying to like plead to like his
Yeah.
like empathy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she asked him why he was doing this to her, and he told her it was just to get back at women in general. So just
Wrong place,
no
wrong
real
time.
reason
And yeah. Oh my
besides,
God.
yeah.
Being a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
And when she heard this, she was like, okay, I can kind of use, that information to his advantage. So she was like telling him like what he was doing was okay, like all these women wronged him and that he's like, not in the wrong, and that she'll be with him, despite this. Like we started off on a bad path, but it's
She's so
okay.
smart and he's so dumb.
Yes. So like after she was telling him all of this, he takes the bullets out of the gun. Like she heard him take the bullets out, but he still kind of like slid the gun up her body so that she knew not to try anything, but she kind of knew that slowly she
He
was
was like,
gaining his trust.
yeah. Ugh. I hate
So
this.
I know. It has now been 4 hours since Lisa has been abducted, and no one really knows that she's missing yet, and so they're not looking for her, but they are looking for her abductor. They just don't know that they're together. So by the
Oh.
time, yeah, so they like don't link this, and they don't
Pin.
link it for a long time.
Huh.
But by the time that Bobby has abducted Lisa, he has left a trail of bodies in the woods and ditches along Florida. He had abducted and murdered at least 8 women in an 8-month period. So
What?
working quickly, like he was just
Uh.
spiraling. He
Mhm.
would find women who were prostitutes or walking alone on the street late at night, and he would invite them in their car, take them somewhere, rape, and then strangle them and dispose of their bodies. So just very, very sick.
What's
At the
this
beginning,
fucking issue? Like, this makes me so mad.
I know, like,
Like, look in the mirror. It's you.
I know. It's just like, ugh, I don't even know. Like, it's just so aggravating. And it's
Yeah.
literally crazy because at the beginning, bodies were being found like every 4 to 6 weeks. But then they started finding a body every 7 to 10 days. So he was like hella escalating.
That's crazy. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
So obviously, the people in the Tampa area were terrified. A task force was formed within the police to try to find a link or a clue, but they noticed that at every scene there would be red fibers left on the victim's clothing. And
Mm.
these were identified as carpet fibers from a car.
Ha! Sucker, we
So
got
they
you.
knew that all of these 8 women were connected
In the
by
same
these red
car.
fibers and that it was from the same man,
Hmm.
which is
The
just crazy. Like,
Magnum
such a small little thing.
clue. Yeah.
Yeah. So the police started to look outside of Tampa to see if there are any more victims. Like I said, he'd only been doing this for 8 months. So they were trying to see if there were any possible other victims outside of Tampa. And
Hmm.
they discovered that in Miami, there had been a serial rapist who had raped up to 50 women.
50.
Yes.
Is this him? Let me
Yes.
see. Oh
It
my
is him.
God.
Um, so the way that
50
he
women?
50 50
Do they not have DNA
insane.
evidence at this time? Like, what's going on?
No, I mean, this happened in 1984, and 1984 was like when DNA evidence
Just coming to.
what
Yeah.
I wanted to say founded. It's not founded. When DNA evidence was discovered, there's the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so like although it was there, it was a very new thing, and
Yeah.
not really
It's not accessible probably to like all the police
exactly,
forces and everything. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So Bobby would look online at classified ads for furniture and he would call the number of whoever was selling the furniture and ask if he came to pick it up, would there be anyone there to help load it into his car? And when the woman on the other end would say no, he knew that they'd be home alone and he had their address. So he would come knocking and say, I'm here to pick up the furniture. And he would gain entry into the home and rape these women and rob them.
Don't do Facebook Marketplace. Oh my
Yes.
God.
That's
Oh
what I
my
thought too.
God.
I'm like, that is so freaking scary.
Yeah. I hate this.
And like,
Ugh.
such like, you wouldn't think anything would happen by just
Yeah.
selling a piece of furniture. It's not like you're in your own
Mm-hmm.
home. You're not out late
Yeah.
at night, doing anything risky necessarily. I don't,
And you just said no, like no one can help you. Like
yeah.
I, I feel like I would say that even if we were here, maybe. I don't know. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
God.
It's scary. So
Yeah.
when the police started looking into these rape cases and examining the clothes that the women were wearing at the time of the incident, they noticed that they also had these same red fibers on their clothes.
What? How is this?
Yes.
What kind of car is this? How is it getting everywhere?
I don't know. I like that's why it's
Like,
like literally small ass fibers, like a little string of something. I don't know. It's insane. So now they knew that they had a prolific rapist and a serial
yeah.
killer on their hands.
Yeah.
Um, so when Lisa was reported missing by her grandmother really early in come morning time when Lisa hadn't arrived,
Yeah.
no one in the police force thought that her case could be connected to the serial killer that they were trying to catch, as she was not his usual victim profile. I mean, she was 17 and she wasn't like working on the streets or anything like that. She was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
riding home from work one morning.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So they didn't think that they were looking for Bobby, which they didn't
Yeah.
know it was
Yeah.
Bobby at the time anyway. So back to Lisa in Bobby's apartment. So Bobby sits Lisa down on the couch and tries to get her to eat a sandwich. And it's like the afternoon of the next day at this point, and she does not want to eat, but she's sitting there, and Bobby has the TV on, and she sees a newscast report about a 17-year-old that was abducted in the middle of the night on a bicycle. And that's when she starts crying and shaking, and she's just losing it because it's the first time that like she realizes like this is real and this actually happened to her. Like this isn't a bad dream or anything like
Yeah.
that. Like this is real.
Yeah. And she said the wrong, like, she lied about her name and her age. Like, that's the first thing I thought of. Like, he's going to find out when it's on the news.
Yeah.
Right?
So, okay, I thought the same thing when I heard the podcast, and then when I was doing my research, they never said anything about the name, but they did say that this was the first time, or this was when Bobby realized that she did lie about her age and that she was just a kid.
Oh.
So I don't know anything about the age, but he did get like really, really mad whenever he found out that she was only 17.
Maybe it's because she's a minor, so they couldn't say her name or
Oh, yeah,
something.
that's a good
I don't
point.
know. I don't know.
I don't know either. But what Bobby doesn't realize is who he abducted, and that Lisa has suffered through a lifetime of abuse that has given her a very specific skill set that I hope no one else has to have because it's just awful. But she has
Yeah.
taught herself how to just completely disconnect and dissociate from her body and what is happening to her. And this is how she has been able to like stay calm with him and try to reason with him and like not upset him. So, I mean, I'm glad that she was able to do this, but I just hate that the reason she knows
Yeah.
how.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
just, it's so sad.
Ugh.
And this is a weird fact, but at 5 p.m. that day, Lisa is still with her abductor and he
God.
makes her touch his face. So he's back in like the caring mood and he's like, I want you to just like touch my face. Like she still has her blindfold on and
I was
everything.
going to say, has she seen him? Okay.
No. But what's crazy is that she said that she could see his face through her hands. So like just how she was like in the car, like knowing the stoplights and like the turns that she took, she
Like
tried to
she
like
could
take in
feel.
everything on his face. So she could tell that he had like a little mustache and some beard scruff and that he had small ears and that he had like acne scars and stuff like that. So she
That's
just like tried to
crazy.
learn everything that she could about his face.
Ugh, it gives me the creeps. Like, ugh.
I know. Can
But
you imagine? Like,
no.
I don't
Like
even
this.
want to imagine.
No.
And another thing that Lisa is just so freaking smart is she convinced him to let her go to the bathroom alone by herself with the door closed. So while she was in the bathroom, she touched everything. She touched the counters, the mirrors, the walls, under the toilet seat, anywhere she could think to touch a place so that if the police came and
Her
searched their house,
fingerprints.
they would find her fingerprints.
She's such a smart gal.
I know. And she had like this little hair clip in her hair and she took it off and like tossed it underneath the bed. So there's
So
another
smart.
thing to
Yeah.
link her to. Yeah. Bobby asked Lisa at one point, quote, "What am I going to do with you now?" And she said, quote, "Well, it's unfortunate the way that we met, but I can be your girlfriend and take care of you." And he said, "No, no, no, I can't keep you." So at this
Uh,
point, yeah. So he puts her back in the car and starts driving, and she's thinking to herself, like, this is it. This is it. Like, he's going to kill
yeah.
me now.
Yeah.
And while they're driving, they make a stop at a gas station, and Bobby says to her, quote, "Stay in the car and don't do anything. If you try to run, I will kill the clerk." So she doesn't move, she doesn't run, she doesn't do anything because she says like she doesn't want it on her conscience to like
That
be the
killed
reason
somebody
that an innocent
else.
person dies.
Oh.
Yeah, so putting herself and like her possible safety in front of
Yeah.
someone else that she doesn't even know, you know,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
crazy.
this girl.
After they leave the gas station, she notices that they are now on an interstate because she can tell that it's louder in the car, you know, like the wind sounds and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything. So she's still at the same time, like they're back in the car and she's still kind of routing their way with her blindfold, still knowing where
Yeah.
they're at, which is just insane. They pull into a parking lot of a store and he tells her to get out of the car and stand there for 5 minutes with your blindfold on. And he said, quote, tell your father he's the reason why I didn't kill you.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
glad her story worked. Oh my
I
god,
know.
oh my
Like,
god. Oh,
she just knew what to do. You know,
that's
like
so
she,
crazy. It's her intuition.
yes. And just like her years of dealing with these
Yeah.
crazy ass people that she learned kind of how to get to him. And
Yeah.
it's insane. So she had no idea what was going on, and she
Mhm.
was just standing in the dark with her blindfold on for the full 5 minutes. But like while she was there, she was like, I'm just like a sitting mouse. Like I don't know
Yeah.
where he is. I don't know what he's doing.
Oh, it's so scary because yeah, and if you take the
It,
blindfold off and he's like there and he's like testing you, oh.
yes. It was probably the longest 5 minutes
And how do you know
of
it's been
like
5 minutes? Like I would have no fucking clue.
I think
Ugh,
she just like stood there for
a good amount
forever,
of
as
time.
long as she thought
Yeah.
would be fine. She took the blindfold off and he wasn't there anymore, so she just started to run. She
I would
ran.
be scared. I like. Is there no one at the store? Probably not. Oh my god.
No, because it's like in the middle of the night, I think.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, it's so scary.
she ran and she just ran as far as she could because she knew, like, or she was thinking in her head, I have to get as far away from this spot as possible in case he changed his mind and wanted to come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
In total, Lisa was with Bobby for a total of 26 hours.
Oh my god, she's so smart and brave. Oh my god.
Yeah. And this is just like a little side note that I thought was kind of interesting that I guess I didn't really realize before. But a psychiatrist on the documentary said that what Bobby did with Lisa was really no different than a lot of other serial killers with the victim that they let go. Like they will brutally attack them and do unspeakable acts, but then something will click where they become like caretaking and nice and want to let them go. Which I just like, you don't really
So
hear a lot
weird.
of that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just weird that like Lisa was the one that he let go. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back to Lisa. She ran all the way back to her grandmother's house, but when she arrived home, Morris began beating her and accusing her of cheating on him.
Ooh,
She could not catch a break.
I'm angry. Oh my god, I literally hate this motherfucker. Oh my
Yes.
god. I'm
It's-
pissed.
I'm pissed too. Like this guy fucking I don't know
Sucks
who's
in
worse.
so many ways. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
the grandma's just gonna let like there's so many dynamics here that are fucked, but like you're gonna let your husband try and
They're not
the
even
whole
they're not
thing.
even married. It's just her boyfriend.
Oh, this thing's so gross. It's so gross.
And it gets even worse because sorry, I don't know if you can hear my glass clinking. So neither her grandmother nor Morris believed Lisa's story at all. Like they
What?
were not having it. They're like, you're making it up. You're making this up for attention. Blah blah blah. Stupid shit. So the grandmother,
Oh,
I know, the grandmother called the police. Literally just to say, hey, Lisa's home. You know, you can close the missing persons case. And when the police officer asked her, like, is she okay? She's like, yeah, she's fine. She's just making up some story that she's been kidnapped. Like, just
I hate this woman. Oh,
awful.
that's
But
so
thankfully,
infuriating.
thankfully, like, I guess this is police standard or like protocol. But once they heard this, they were like, well, since she's underage and a minor and claiming that to be kidnapped, like, we have to bring her in and talk to her about it. So
Thank God.
thank God. But then it gets worse before it gets better. At the police
Ah.
station, she is acting very calm and poised and is just trying to tell the police what happened. Here's the facts. This is all I know.
Yeah.
You know, all the details. And the police literally do not believe her either.
Oh my God. I'm sorry that she can handle this because she's been through years of abuse. Like,
Yes.
oh.
It is so freaking aggravating. And they say like that the way she's acting and how calm she sounded, they just assume that she's just a typical runaway or like she was out late at a party and is trying to make an excuse for why she didn't get home in time. Like, what the fuck?
My step grandpa's raping me. I'm 17. I like have been abused my whole life and now I'm kidnapped, and I'm like, what? I'd be going nuts.
Yeah. It's so aggravating, and like I don't know how like factual this is, but in the Lifetime movie, there was two women police officers that were interviewing her, and they're like, "Listen, we're all girls here. Like, just tell us what happened. Were you hanging out with a boy, and like you don't want to tell
No.
your parents?" Yeah, and
Uh,
she even and like this what she said this. Once the police left the room, she could hear them laughing at her.
oh, oh my
Yeah.
God, that's infuriating.
So, of course, she starts to get pissed and she just like closes up. And they bring in a sergeant that works in the sex crime division, and his name is Larry Pinkerton. Now, we love Larry. So he
Larry,
comes
okay,
in.
finally.
Yes, this is finally like where it gets at least a little better.
Better, yeah.
Larry comes in and he pulls out his wallet and shows him a picture of his daughter and says that she is around her age and that there's nothing that he wouldn't do to protect his daughter, and there's nothing that he wouldn't do to protect Lisa. And
Finally.
now, like,
Oh.
this is the first time in her life that there is someone there that is listening to her and believing her, that she just starts breaking down crying. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's just so sad. And she says that she wants to get, quote, revenge, and and wants to catch this her abductor because she doesn't want him to do this to any other woman. And so
Yeah.
Larry's like, okay, I believe you. Like, tell me everything, basically.
She's like, here I go again. Huh.
Yeah.
There was 22 steps. I turned 5 times. Like, fuck.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine like living through it and then having to recount it over and over again? Like,
And no one believing you over and over again. Oh,
yeah. Um,
go look
so
at my
she starts,
DNA. Oh,
yeah. Yeah. Like, go look, I have a beret or a beret. Am I
a
80?
beret.
A hair clip and fingerprints all over the house. So she starts to describe in detail every single thing that she could remember, like I said. And the police even noted that they had never seen a victim have such a recall of events like Lisa had. So she was just so smart, was able to, be calm and just do everything that she could in that situation to either, like, if she was murdered by Bobby, was doing everything she could, like, leave evidence behind to connect them, or do everything she could that if she survived to get this man off the street. So,
Yeah.
and what's crazy is based on all of the details that Lisa was able to tell the police, they were able to know within a 2 square mile radius where the victim lived.
That's
So, like, from
crazy.
all of Tampa, she had
That's
such good, yeah,
that's crazy. But amazing.
yeah, amazing. So, it took the police a while to connect that the serial killer they were looking for was also the man
Oh, they
who
still didn't
abducted
realize. Okay.
Lisa. Yeah, they still hadn't realized. And again, I don't really know how factual this is, but in the movie, believe me, a lot of the police officers, besides Larry, like did not think this crime was connected at all. So they were like, no, it's two separate people. Like, you need to stop this hunt. Like, we got to focus on the serial killer. Like, stop wasting our time with this, basically. But Larry was adamant, and in real life as well as the movie, they did test Lisa's clothes and saw those same red fibers. Yep.
Motherfucker. Oh my gosh. Ugh. I feel like if
Yeah,
they had
so now they
no
knew.
DNA, they had to pay attention to all those details back then.
Yes, I know. It's just insane.
And that's all you got.
Talking so much. Okay. So they knew based off those red fibers that this was obviously the same man, and they have a great lead now. Because like all they knew before was the red fibers, and now they had all this information that Lisa
You're welcome.
was able to provide them. Yeah, you're welcome. She's a bad bitch. So they gathered a task force of 50 detectives, and they went out to the area of that 2 square mile radius and were looking for him or his car because Lisa was able to give like great detail of the car that he was driving.
Mm-hmm.
They spent all night looking for him, and towards the end of the night, as they were patrolling the red light district, here comes Bobby's car.
Loser.
And like based off of the sketch and like the details that Lisa was able to tell, they drew up a sketch of the man, and they knew from that sketch alone like this was Bobby. Like that's how good her
Description
information of just
was?
feeling his face.
Oh, that's so crazy.
I know.
Wow. I'm so proud of her, but like I'm so pissed. Like imagine if Larry didn't stick up for her.
I know. Exactly. Yeah. It's just thank God that one person in her life finally trusted her.
Yeah.
I mean,
Stepped up.
I just can't believe it. So the police start following Bobby and his car back to his apartment, and they noticed that the apartment matched Lisa's description. So like they knew like, okay, this is the guy. So they tail him for 72 hours while they try to gather as much evidence as they can and try to get search warrants. And finally, just after 12 days of Lisa's abduction, they were able to capture Bobby. But what's awful is that in those 12 days, he murdered 2 more women.
2?
2.
Oh my God, that's terrible. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
so
actually so crazy.
now I have no words. Just awful. Which, if you think about it, like 72 hours, so they were tailing him for 3 days. So that means in 9 days, basically, he killed 2 women.
Well, that was kind of my question was, did the police know he had a girl and they didn't do anything, or
No, yeah,
Okay.
no, I don't think so.
like I was like,
At
oh my
least-
God.
Yeah. I feel like if they saw him take a girl, that would have been like an immediate arrest on the spot.
Yeah.
Okay, so while being interviewed, a former detective on the documentary said that Bobby was very cocky and always thought that he was one step ahead of the police, but Bobby only thought that he was being charged for Lisa. He had no idea that the police also had him on
Everything
the
else.
murders. Yeah, everything else. And what's amazing is, well, kind of a given, I guess, at this point, but while searching Bobby's apartment, they were able to find all the evidence that Lisa left behind. So, like, it's just, I love her.
Yeah, I love her, and I'm glad he doesn't clean.
Yeah, yeah. While in custody, this is awful. Bobby said about his murders and rapes, quote, "It was like A, B, C, D. I pull over and they get in. I drive a little ways, stop, pull a gun, a knife, whatever, and tie them up. Take them out, and that'll be it."
I hate him. Ew.
Fucking, like, psychopath.
Psycho and gross and weird and ugh.
He's just, like, so, like, nonchalant about it. Like, gives no fucks.
That's
I'm saying the F word a lot in this episode, but it's just
it
aggravating.
is aggravating. Like, I'm sorry. It just pisses me off.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Just thankfully, on September 24th, 1985, Bobby Joe Long pled guilty to 8 murders and the abduction and rape of Lisa, but he later confessed to 10 murders. So he confessed to the other 2 after Lisa.
Bye.
Bobby said this about Lisa, quote, "It was easy to tell from the moment I grabbed Lisa that she wasn't like the others, and that's probably why she's still alive, walking and talking today. And I understand that she'd love to see me in the electric chair. I can't blame her."
What a weirdo. Ugh. I feel
Yeah.
so bad for, everyone. Like, what about the other girls? Like, I don't know. Ugh.
I know. I wish like I would have done a deeper dive into him and his victims, and maybe we can do like a sidebar
Yeah.
episode. I can like put a little something together because I did realize that like a little too late. I didn't have time before we recorded, but I do want to like not shed light, but I feel like with this story, it's all about Lisa, and you're not really getting the other 10 or other 50 women who were also a victim to him. So
Yeah.
maybe we can do like a little mini-sode or something.
Yeah. Because we're here for Lisa. We love Lisa, but
We love Lisa, but we also want to respect and
the other girls.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, because I was just thinking, like, I wonder what all the other girls went through, like, before they were, killed. Because,
Yeah.
like, that's so terrifying.
Torture.
Because, like, Lisa's
Yeah.
telling us all these stories, like, where she almost could have died. Like, oh, those girls really were. It was their last minute.
I know.
Sad.
It's very sad to think about. Like, gives me anxiety.
I know. Like, giving me anxiety to leave the house.
Yes.
Or
yes.
be at home, because I can have it at home, too. Oh, my God.
Yeah, just no Facebook Marketplace and no leaving the house, and hopefully we'll be fine.
Okay.
Do
my job.
Yeah. So basically, it was all because of Lisa's ability to stay calm and to try to remember everything she could that Bobby was caught and would never be able to kill another woman again, because we all know he would have done it until he was caught eventually.
Yeah.
So thankfully, Lisa was able to survive and get out of the situation and could stop him early. And another good thing, it's going to take a little bit to get there, but the police called Morris
I was
and
waiting for Morris.
recommended that Lisa see a psychologist, because obviously she just went through an awful 26 hours of her life.
Yeah.
And Morris just like flat out said no. And Larry Pickerton, the sergeant, realizes like, well, that's not right. Like, you should want to get your daughter help. And so he brings Lisa in and says, your dad's refusing to let you speak to a psychologist. And she breaks down and says, that's not my dad, and tells him everything about what was been going on at home.
Yeah.
And that afternoon, the police go and arrest Morris. So,
yes, thank God. I was literally like, I'm like, in the back of my head, like, what's going on with Morris? This motherfucker needs to be locked up, too.
So thankfully, we got 2 bad people off the streets, but the grandma was never held accountable or went to jail. So
yeah, I was wondering about the grandma. So she just
got away with it. I mean, I get it, like, or I don't get it, but I know that she wasn't necessarily directly abusing, but she was directly not doing anything about the abuse.
Yeah.
So I feel like that should have some level of...
Yeah, there has to be repercussion. Like, that's neglect if you're in charge of the child. I mean, I know she's 17 at this point, but, like, this has been
still a
happening her whole
minor.
life. Yeah.
I mean...
And it was happening when she was young, too. And the mom?
Yeah, I mean, she was 14 whenever it started. Yeah, and the mom, too. So...
Yeah. Had they ever said anything? Like, did the mom or grandma ever say anything?
Not that I saw. I don't think
yeah,
so.
why would they? They look stupid.
Yeah. I mean, they're probably, like, so embarrassed now that the stories came out and everyone can see
Yeah.
how awful they are.
I could see them being, like, bitter and, like, still denying it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, that's actually probably right. So in 2019, so just 4 years ago, Bobby was executed in Florida. And Lisa actually attended the execution, and she was sitting in the front row with a shirt that said long, like his last name, said long overdue. And she said that.
Period.
Period, queen. I love that. And she said, quote, I wanted to be the first person he saw. And probably the last person he saw, too. I mean,
so crazy.
Yeah. So she got her revenge, as she said, her quote-unquote revenge. And as Lisa got older, she was able to move out of her grandparents' house, and instead of going to live back with her mom, she moved in with her aunt and uncle, who had no idea of the abuse and stuff that was going on in those homes. And they were, I mean, I'm sure, like,
freaked out,
very sorry that they didn't catch on sooner or anything like that. So she ended up having a great rest of her teenhood, and she ended up getting married and had a child, and now she has a grandchild.
Oh my God.
So she's doing great, and she dedicated her life to helping others, and she even became a police officer and she specializes in child abuse cases.
Oh my god, I love her. She's so cool. Oh my god.
Yeah. So badass through and through.
Through and
And
through.
she and Larry are still friends to this day. So,
Oh, okay, this is a good. I mean, I knew we were getting there, but I couldn't see the end.
I know. I mean, that's all I really have on this story, but it's just, I can't believe I hadn't heard about it before. And when I heard it on And That's Why We Drink, I was like, okay, I have to tell this story because it just like is a roller coaster. It's insane.
And it's
And
uplifting.
the Lifetime, sorry, what'd you say?
Oh, and then it's uplifting at the end.
Yes, exactly. And the Lifetime movie is a good show or a good movie, and the documentary is a good episode. So if you guys like want to see Lisa and hear her talk about her story,
In fact,
the documentary is really good. Yeah. So I recommend the documentary. I had to buy the episode, I think, on Amazon Prime, but it was like 99 cents or like $1.99 or something.
Worth
it's
it.
pretty cheap. So if you're interested, definitely go check it out. And then there's also the Lifetime movie. So yeah.
I mean, that was a great story. Happy-ish ending.
Happy ending.
Oh, happy ending.
Besides the grandma.
Well, and the 10 other girls. But
Oh, yes, yes.
But it was an empowering story. Lisa's a badass. We love her. We're glad Morris is rotting away or whatever he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to
He's
know.
probably dead now, but
Yeah, probably. And the grandma, too.
at least he spent the rest of his life rotting away.
Yeah.
And at least, the other victims' families got closure too,
Yeah. No, that's
But yeah, I
true.
definitely think that's a good idea. I'm gonna look into those other victims, and maybe we can do something like this week, like a
Mini-sode.
mini or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good
So
one, Lauren. That was a lot.
thank you.
That was a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster of emotions for sure. But
Well,
thank you all for listening.
We're in sync. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Don't forget to like us. Oh, and we're also, so we didn't mean to, but we have video now on Spotify.
Yeah. Check us out on Spotify. If you're listening on Apple, maybe next week, flick over to Spotify.
Or if you're on Apple and you want to see our faces, go to YouTube.
Or YouTube.
Because we now post YouTube videos
Wait,
of
Lauren,
the
what's
episode.
the channel again?
I think it's just Seriously Disturbed Podcast.
Okay. Yep.
So, yeah, type that in. We'll be there somewhere.
We'll be looking at you.
Yeah. So, and follow us on Instagram at Seriously Disturbed Podcast.
Okay. Well, love you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye.
Bye.